My name is Alexandra Chen, and I built a $52 million company from nothing.
My name is Alexandra Chen, and I built my company from nothing. Literally nothing. 10 years ago, I was a 28-year-old consultant working out of my studio apartment, cold calling potential clients, living on ramen and ambition. Today, I'm the CEO of Chen Strategic Solutions, a business consulting firm worth $52 million. We have 200 employees across 4 offices. Our clients include Fortune 500 companies. Last year, we were named one of the fastest growing firms in the country. I did that. Not my board. Not my investors. Not some man who helped me. Mem. So when Marcus Whitfield walked into my boardroom on his first day and said women can't run companies, I didn't just hear an insult. I heard a challenge. Before we get into how I destroyed this man's career, smash that like button and subscribe because this story is about justice, revenge, and a $50 million power move you won't see coming. Now back to the story. Let me back up. Marcus Whitfield came highly recommended by Robert Hammond, one of our board members and a major investor. He's a closer, Robert told me. 10 years at McKinsey, built their entire West Coast client base. He's exactly what you need to take CSS to the next level. I should have heard the warning in those words. What you need. As if I hadn't already taken us to this level myself. But I was trying to be collaborative, trying to show I could work with the old boys club that still dominated corporate consulting. Marcus's resume was impressive. Harvard MBA, McKinsey, Goldman Sachs before that. Client list that read like a who's who of corporate America. His interview was fine, confident, maybe too confident. But in consulting, confidence sells. I see a lot of potential here, he said during our meeting, looking around my office like he was appraising real estate. With the right leadership structure, CSS could really become something. The right leadership structure. I ignored that too. We're already something, I said evenly. We've grown 40% year over year for the past 3 years. Of course, he said quickly. I just mean there's always room for optimization. I hired him as VP of Client Relations. 6-figure salary. Full benefits. Equity options. My CFO, Jennifer Park, pulled me aside after the contract was signed. Are you sure about this guy? She asked. Something feels off. Robert vouches for him, I said, and we need someone with his connections to break into the Fortune 100 space. Robert vouches for a lot of people, Jennifer said carefully. Not all of them work out. She was right to be cautious. Marcus started on a Monday in September. By Wednesday, I'd already heard complaints. Sarah, one of our senior consultants, came to my office. Can I talk to you about Marcus? Of course. What's going on? He's dismissive. I was presenting the Dennison account strategy this morning, and he interrupted me 3 times to correct my approach. Then he told the client the strategy was his idea. Did you address it with him? I tried. He said I was being sensitive and that I should learn to collaborate better. I made a note. One incident wasn't a pattern, but it was a data point. By Friday, I had 5 more data points. Marcus had told Rebecca, our head of operations, that she seemed stressed and should let the men handle the high-pressure situations. He'd asked Maria, our project manager, if she was sure she understood the technical aspects of her own project. He'd told our receptionist, Katie, that she'd be prettier if she smiled more. And in a team meeting, he'd referred to our female clients as the wives who hold the purse strings. I called him into my office. Marcus, we need to talk about your communication style. He settled into the chair across from my desk, completely relaxed. Sure. What's up? I've received several complaints from female staff members about inappropriate comments. Inappropriate? He looked genuinely confused. Like what? Telling Rebecca to let the men handle things. Asking Maria if she understands technical concepts she literally designed. Commenting on Katie's appearance. He laughed. Actually laughed. Alex, come on. That's just office banter. Everyone's so sensitive these days. It's Alexandra, I corrected. And it's not banter. It's creating a hostile work environment. Hostile? He leaned forward. I'm trying to help. Rebecca did seem stressed. Maria did have questions. And I was being friendly to Katie. This is exactly the problem with having too many women in one workplace. Everyone takes everything personally. I felt my jaw tighten. Excuse me? Look, I respect what you've built here. I do. But there's a reason most consulting firms are run by men. Women are great at certain things, relationship management, internal operations, HR stuff. But when it comes to high-stakes client relations and strategic growth, you need testosterone in the room. I stared at him. Are you seriously saying this to me right now? I'm being honest. That's what you hired me for, right? Real talk? He spread his hands. You're talented, Alexandra. No one's denying that. But CSS has hit a ceiling. You can feel it. That's why Robert brought me in. To provide the kind of leadership that can break through. I am the leadership, I said coldly. Sure, on paper. But when we're pitching Fortune 100 CEOs, and let's be real, most of them are men, don't you think they'd respond better to someone who speaks their language? Someone who's been where they are? Someone with a penis, you mean? He had the audacity to smile. Your words, not mine. I'm just saying there's science behind this. Men and women have different strengths. Playing to those strengths isn't sexist. It's strategic. I stood up. This conversation is over. Consider this a formal warning. Any further complaints about your conduct will result in termination. Termination? He laughed again. Good luck with that. Robert brought me here specifically to prepare the company for the next phase. You really want to fire his guy 2 weeks in? What message does that send to the board? He left my office still smiling. That night, I sat in my car in the parking garage for 20 minutes, just breathing. I'd dealt with sexist men my entire career. Professors who called on male students more. Clients who asked to speak to my male colleagues. Investors who asked if I had a husband to help with the business. But this was different. This was in my company. The one I built. The one with my name on the building. And he knew exactly what he was doing. Using Robert as a shield. Positioning himself as indispensable. Planting seeds of doubt about my leadership. My phone rang. Jennifer, I heard you called Marcus in, she said. How'd it go? About as well as expected. He thinks he's untouchable. Is he? What do you mean? Robert's been asking questions about your leadership style, about whether you're open to guidance. I think Marcus has been talking to him. My stomach dropped. Already? Already, Jennifer confirmed. Alex, I think he's positioning himself for something bigger. I think he wants your job. He's been here 2 weeks. Some men don't need longer than that to decide they deserve what you have. After we hung up, I sat there thinking, I could fire him, should fire him, but Jennifer was right. Robert would make it ugly. The board would question my judgment. Why hire someone just to fire them? Were you threatened by his talent? Or I could wait, document, build a case so airtight that when I did fire him, no one could question it. I chose option 2. What I didn't know yet was just how much ammunition Marcus was about to give me. 3 weeks into Marcus's employment, I started keeping a file. Not a mental file, an actual physical file locked in my desk drawer. Every complaint, every incident, every email where he took credit for someone else's work, every meeting where he undermined me. I called it the Marcus file. Jennifer called it the receipt collection. It started small. Marcus would CC Robert on emails where he'd just casually question my decisions. Hey Robert, just wanted to loop you in on the Jameson account. Alexandra wants to go with the conservative approach, but I think we're leaving money on the table. Might be worth discussing at the next board meeting, or... Robert, quick thought. I notice we're not leveraging our network the way we could be. I've got some ideas about restructuring the leadership team to maximize our Fortune 500 penetration. Would love your thoughts. Restructuring the leadership team. My leadership team. Then it got bigger. I started hearing things from clients. Casual mentions that Marcus had called them directly, without going through proper channels, to check in and make sure they were getting the level of service they deserve. One client, Tom Davidson from Orion Tech, actually called me about it. Hey Alex, I wanted to give you a heads up. Your new guy, Marcus? He called me last week, Otto, about the project? Not exactly. He was asking about our satisfaction with CSS. Whether we felt like the strategy was solid. Whether we'd be interested in, let me get his exact words, more senior level consultation. My blood went cold. More senior level? Yeah. I got the impression he was suggesting that you weren't senior enough. I shut that down immediately, obviously. You and your team have been fantastic, but I thought you should know. Thank you, Tom. I appreciate you telling me. Watch that guy, Tom said. I've seen his type before. He's positioning himself for something. I added Tom's email to the Marcus file. Then Marcus started going after my team directly. Rachel Morrison, one of our best consultants, came to my office in tears. What happened? I asked, closing the door. Marcus. He took my presentation. What do you mean, took it? The Caldwell pitch. I've been working on it for 6 weeks. Every detail, every slide, every financial projection. I sent it to him yesterday for review because he's supposedly overseeing client relations now and he presented it to Caldwell this morning as his own work. Didn't mention me once. When I tried to say something, he cut me off and said I was part of the support team that helped compile the data. Support team? You created the entire strategy. I know. And when I confronted him after, he said if I couldn't handle collaborative environments, maybe consulting wasn't for me. Rachel looked at me with red eyes. Alex, I've been here for 4 years. I've never had a problem with anyone. But this guy, he's systematically taking credit for every female employee's work and claiming it's his. I believe you, I said. And I'm documenting everything. Keep records. Emails, timestamps, witnesses. Can you do that? You're building a case? I'm building an airtight case. The next incident came from HR. Melissa, our HR director, requested an urgent meeting. We have a situation, she said, closing my office door. 3 different women have filed informal complaints about Marcus in the past month. Informal? They're afraid to go on record because he's buddy-buddy with Robert, and they don't want to seem like troublemakers. But the pattern is clear. She laid out 3 incident reports. Incident 1. Marcus told Jessica, our marketing manager, that she should wear more professional clothing. Specifically, she should dress more feminine because clients respond better to women who embrace their femininity. Incident 2. During a happy hour, Marcus cornered Amy, a junior consultant, and asked if she was sleeping with anyone at the office because she'd gotten a promotion pretty fast for someone so young and pretty. Incident 3. Marcus sent a late-night text to Caroline, our operations coordinator, asking if she wanted to grab drinks and discuss her career trajectory. When she politely declined, he became cold and excluded her from key meetings. This is harassment, I said flatly. Yes, but none of them want to file formal complaints because he'll retaliate and hide behind Robert. Exactly. Tell them I'm handling it. Tell them to document everything and that I will protect them. But I need more time. Melissa looked uncertain. How much time? Enough to make sure when I fire him, he can't come back from it. That weekend, I did something I'm not proud of. I went through Marcus's office. Not his locked files. I'm not stupid enough to do something illegal. But his desk, his whiteboards, his notes, left out in the open. What I found made my stomach turn. On his whiteboard, hidden behind a pulled-out panel, was an org chart. Not our org chart. A proposed restructure. At the top, Marcus Whitfield, Chief Executive Officer. Below that, Alexandra Chen, Chief Operating Officer. He'd literally drawn himself as my boss. Below that were notes. Phase 1. Build client loyalty, direct relationships. Phase 2. Demonstrate revenue growth under my leadership. Phase 3. Position AC as operational, not strategic. Phase 4. Board proposal, January 2024. January 2024. 3 months away. He wasn't just undermining me. He was executing a coup. I took photos of everything. Monday morning, I called an emergency meeting with Jennifer and David Cheng, our general counsel. How bad is this? David asked after I showed him everything. Career ending bad, I said. For him, hopefully, but he's playing a long game. He's trying to turn Robert and the board against me slowly, position himself as the savior, then propose a leadership change. Can he actually do that? Jennifer asked. If he gets enough board support? Maybe. I'm the majority shareholder. But the board can make my life hell. They can block initiatives, undermine me publicly, force me out through pressure. David was scanning through the Marcus file. The harassment alone is fireable. The client poaching is breach of contract. The IP theft, taking employees' work, is potentially actionable. You have more than enough to terminate him for cause? But, I asked, hearing it in his voice. But Robert will fight it. He'll claim you're intimidated by Marcus's talent. That you can't handle competition. That you're being emotional. There was that word again. Emotional. So what do I do? David thought for a moment. You need something undeniable. Something so egregious that even Robert can't defend it. Something that protects you from any narrative that you're just threatened by him. Like what? Financial misconduct. Client theft with proof. Or harassment so blatant we have multiple witnesses and documentation. Jennifer leaned forward. So we keep watching. Keep documenting. and we wait for him to hang himself. He will, I said. Men like Marcus always do. They get overconfident. They think they're untouchable. How long do we wait? David asked. As long as it takes, I said, but not a day longer than necessary. What I didn't know was that I wouldn't have to wait long at all, because Marcus was about to make the biggest mistake of his career, and I was going to be there to catch every second of it. The mistake came 2 weeks later, and it came from an unexpected source. Katie, our receptionist, she knocked on my office door at 7:30 a.m., before most of the staff arrived. Do you have a minute? She asked nervously. It's about Marcus. Of course. Come in. Katie was 24, fresh out of college, and one of the hardest workers we had. She'd started as an intern and earned her full-time position through sheer competence. She sat down, clutching her phone. I need to show you something, but I'm scared. If this gets out, if he finds out I told you, Katie, whatever it is, I will protect you. I promise. She took a deep breath and handed me her phone. It was a text thread. From Marcus. I started reading, and my jaw clenched tighter with each message. Marcus, 11:47 p.m. Hey Katie, you still up? Katie. Hi Marcus. Yes, just finishing some work. Do you need something for tomorrow? Marcus. Just thinking about you. You looked really good today. Katie. Oh, thank you. I should get some sleep. See you tomorrow. Marcus. Wait. I've been meaning to talk to you about your career here. Katie? My career? Marcus. Yeah. I think you have a lot of potential, but you're wasting it at the front desk. I could help you move up. Get you into a real position. Katie. I appreciate that, but I'm happy with my current role. Alexandra has been great about my development plan. Marcus. Alex is nice, sure, but between you and me, she's not going to be running this place much longer. I'm taking over soon. When that happens, I'll remember who was smart enough to be on my team early. Katie. I don't think that's appropriate. Good night, Marcus. Don't be like that. I'm trying to help you. You're a smart, beautiful girl. You could go far if you play your cards right. Katie. I'm going to bed now. Marcus. Your choice. But when things change around here, don't say I didn't offer. The text continued over several days. Each time Katie tried to keep it professional, Marcus pushed further. He'd asked her to drinks 3 times. He'd made comments about her body. He'd implied that her job security depended on being friendly to him. And most damningly, he'd explicitly stated he was planning to replace me. Katie, why didn't you come to me sooner? I asked gently. I was scared, she said, tears forming. He's friends with Mr. Hammond. I thought maybe this is just how business works, that I'm supposed to deal with this stuff. No, I said firmly. This is not how business works. This is harassment. And the fact that he's threatening your job? That's illegal. Are you going to fire him? I'm going to destroy him, I said. But I need you to do something for me. I need you to file a formal complaint with HR. Today. Will you do that? She nodded. Will I be protected? I guarantee it. And Katie? Thank you. You're braver than you know. After she left, I immediately called David and Melissa. We have him, I said. Sexual harassment. Quid pro quo. Threats. And he confessed to planning a takeover in writing. David actually laughed. He texted that? He's dumber than I thought. What's the play? Melissa asked. Katie files the formal complaint today. We launch an immediate investigation. We pull his emails, his messages, everything. I guarantee we'll find more. And Robert? David asked. We document everything, build the case, and then I go to the full board. Not just Robert. With this kind of evidence, even Robert can't protect him. When do you want to move? Melissa asked. Soon, I said. But I want to see what else he's hiding first. Can you start the investigation quietly? Already on it, Melissa said. The investigation took 1 week. What we found was so much worse than I'd imagined. Discovery number 1. The expense reports. Marcus had been padding his expenses consistently since week 2. Dinners that didn't happen. Flights he never took. Client entertainment that was actually him taking his friends out on the company card. Total fraudulent expenses, $43,000 in 3 months. Discovery number 2. The client list. He'd been keeping a separate database of our clients on his personal cloud storage, complete with contact information, contract details, and notes about migration strategy. He was planning to poach them. Not eventually, actively. We found emails to a business formation attorney about starting a competing firm. Discovery number 3, the IP theft. Remember Rachel's presentation that he stole? He'd done it to 6 other people. He had an entire folder called Best Work that was just stolen presentations, strategies, and reports from our female employees, with his name on them. He'd even presented some to Robert as examples of his contributions. Discovery number 4, the other women. Katie wasn't the first. We found inappropriate messages to 3 other female employees. All junior, all younger, all afraid to report it. One had already quit because of him. She'd cited personal reasons in her exit interview, but now she was willing to talk. Discovery number 5, the sabotage. This was the one that made me see red. Marcus had been deliberately sabotaging projects run by female team members. He'd changed proposal deadlines without telling them. He'd altered budget numbers in shared documents. He'd fed clients false information to make the women look incompetent. And then he'd positioned himself as the one who saved the accounts. David laid it all out in my office. "This is extensive," he said. "Any one of these things is grounds for immediate termination for cause. All of them together? He'll be lucky if we don't press charges." "Can we press charges?" I asked. "For the expense fraud?" "Absolutely. For the harassment? That's civil, but the victims could sue. For the IP theft and client poaching? Also civil, but we'd win." Jennifer was pacing. "So we fire him. Today? Right now?" "Not yet," I said. They both stared at me. "Alex, what are you waiting for?" Jennifer asked. "We have everything. I want Robert in the room," I said. "I want him to see exactly who he brought into this company. I want him to hear it from Marcus's own mouth." "That's risky," David warned. "Robert could tip him off." "No," I said slowly, an idea forming. "We don't tell Robert the specifics. We tell him we need an emergency board meeting to discuss concerning behavior from Marcus. Robert will think it's me being threatened. He'll bring Marcus along to defend him. And then you drop the hammer," Jennifer said, catching on. "Then I drop everything. In front of the entire board. So there's no spinning it." No, she was intimidated by his talent narrative. Just facts, evidence, and Marcus's own words. David smiled slowly. "That's brilliant. And brutal." "He earned brutal," I said. I scheduled the board meeting for the following Monday. The email was carefully worded. "Emergency board meeting to discuss personnel matters and recent concerns about company culture and client relationships. Full board attendance mandatory." Robert responded within minutes. "What's this about, Alex? If you're having issues with Marcus, we should discuss them privately first," I replied. "This is a matter for the full board. I'll present all relevant information Monday." He didn't like that. He called me directly. "Alexandra, if you're planning to fire Marcus, I strongly advise against it. He's brought in 3 new major clients in 3 months. His performance has been exceptional." "Has it?" I asked coolly. "We'll discuss his performance on Monday. I'm telling you right now, if you fire him without cause, the board will have serious questions about your judgment." "Then it's good we're having a board meeting," I said. "See you Monday, Robert." I hung up before he could argue further. That weekend, I barely slept. I rehearsed everything. Every piece of evidence. Every timeline. Every witness statement. I had printed copies of every text message. Every expense report. Every stolen document. I had sworn statements from Katie and 4 other women. I had testimony from clients about his inappropriate behavior. I had his own words in writing about planning to take over my company. Sunday night, Jennifer came over with wine. "You ready for tomorrow?" she asked. "I've been ready for this my entire career," I said. "You know this is going to get ugly, right? Robert's going to fight. Marcus is going to lie. They're going to try to make you the villain." "Let them try," I said. "I have something they don't." "What's that?" "The truth. And a paper trail that proves it." We clinked glasses. "You know what the best part is?" Jennifer said. "He has no idea what's coming. He thinks he's untouchable. He thought women can't run companies," I said. "Tomorrow, he learns what happens when you underestimate one." Monday morning came. The board meeting was scheduled for 10 a.m. At 9:45, I walked into the conference room with 3 folders, one for each board member. Inside, 147 pages of evidence, organized chronologically, tabbed by category, with sworn statements and supporting documentation. Robert arrived with Marcus, exactly as I'd predicted. Marcus looked confident, relaxed. He actually winked at me as he sat down. He thought I was about to get embarrassed in front of the board. He thought Robert was going to defend him. He thought he'd won. He had no idea that in the next hour, I was going to systematically dismantle his entire life. And I was going to enjoy every second of it. The board filed in at exactly 10 a.m. 5 members total, plus me. Robert Hammond, venture capitalist, early investor, Marcus's champion. Patricia Okonkwo, former Fortune 500 CFO, sharp as a blade, no nonsense. James Chen, my uncle, but he'd vote against me if the numbers said to. Family didn't mean loyalty in business. Dr. Sarah Brennan, organizational psychologist, brought on specifically to evaluate company culture. Michael Torres, tech entrepreneur, youngest board member, generally fair. And Marcus, sitting next to Robert like they were a team. I stood at the head of the table. Thank you all for coming on short notice, I began. I know this is unusual, but we have a serious situation that requires immediate board attention. Robert leaned back in his chair. Before we start, I want to state for the record that I believe this meeting is premature. Marcus has been an exceptional addition to the team, and any personality conflicts should be handled through normal HR channels, not emergency board meetings. This isn't about personality conflicts, I said evenly. This is about harassment, fraud, theft, and a deliberate attempt to sabotage this company. Marcus actually laughed. That's a serious accusation, Alexandra. I hope you have evidence to back that up. I do, I said, placing my hand on the 3 folders. 147 pages of it. His smile faltered slightly. I distributed the folders. What you have in front of you is a comprehensive investigation into Marcus Whitfield's conduct over the past 3 months. I'm going to walk you through it systematically, and then we'll discuss appropriate action. Patricia was already flipping through her folder. Her expression darkened immediately. Let's start with the harassment, I said, pulling up the first slide on the screen behind me. It was a screenshot of Marcus's text to Katie. Slide 1, text messages. I read them aloud. Every single one. The late-night messages. The comments about her appearance. The career threats. The quid pro quo implications. Marcus shifted uncomfortably. Those were taken out of context. I was just being friendly. Let me finish, I said coldly. Then you'll have a chance to respond. I moved to the next slide. Slide 2. Additional victims. Katie wasn't alone. 3 other female employees received similar messages. All junior staff. All younger women. All afraid to report because Marcus repeatedly told them he was close with board members and had protection. I showed their statements. Their screenshots. Their testimony. Sarah Brennan's face was stone. Did HR investigate these claims? A full investigation was launched when the first formal complaint was filed last Monday. Everything you're seeing has been verified and documented. Robert was reading through the messages, his jaw tight. But he wasn't defending Marcus yet. Now let's talk about expense fraud, I continued. Slide 3. Fraudulent expenses. I put up a spreadsheet. Every fraudulent charge highlighted in red. $43,000 in fake expenses over 3 months. Dinners that never happened. Flights he didn't take. Hotels he never stayed in. I verified all of this with the vendors directly. Michael whistled low. That's not a mistake. That's systematic theft. It gets worse, I said. Slide 4. Client poaching scheme. I showed them the evidence. The separate client database. The emails to the business attorney. The notes about migration strategy. Marcus has been planning to steal our clients and start a competing firm since week 3 of his employment. James was shaking his head. This is all documented? Every single piece. Including this. I pulled up an email Marcus had sent to a competing firm, offering to bring high-value clients from his current employer in exchange for a partnership stake. The room went silent. Marcus finally spoke up, his voice tight. These are being misrepresented. I was exploring options. While employed here? Patricia cut him off. While stealing our client data? While plotting to violate your non-compete? I haven't violated anything, Marcus said. This is just Alex being threatened by someone more qualified. More qualified? I said, my voice sharp. Let's talk about qualifications. Slide 5. Stolen work. I put up a side-by-side comparison. Rachel's original presentation on the left, Marcus's version on the right, with his name on it. This is Rachel Morrison's work. 6 weeks of strategic development. Marcus presented it as his own to both the client and to Robert as an example of his contributions. I showed 5 more examples. all stolen from female employees, all presented as Marcus's work. This is intellectual property theft. Marcus has been systematically taking credit for other people's work while sabotaging their projects to make himself look better. Sarah leaned forward. Sabotaging how? I'm glad you asked. Slide 6. Deliberate sabotage. I showed the evidence. Changed deadlines, altered budgets, false information fed to clients. Marcus would deliberately undermine projects led by women, then position himself as the person who saved the account. He did this to make female employees look incompetent and himself look indispensable. Patricia was no longer reading calmly. She was angry. This is egregious. There's one more thing, I said quietly. And Robert, this one involves you directly. Robert looked up sharply. Slide 7. The takeover plan. I showed the photo of Marcus's whiteboard, the org chart with him as CEO, the 4-phase plan, the timeline ending in board proposal, January 2024. Marcus has been executing a calculated plan to take over this company. Phase 1 was building direct client relationships to bypass me. Phase 2 was demonstrating revenue growth by stealing credit for others' work. Phase 3 was positioning me as operational, not strategic, to undermine my authority. I looked directly at Robert. Phase 4 was bringing a proposal to the board, specifically to you, Robert, to remove me as CEO and install himself. The timeline says January 2024. That's 6 weeks from now. The room was dead silent. Robert was staring at the image, his face unreadable. Marcus stood up abruptly. This is ridiculous. You went through my office? That's illegal. Your office in our building, using our equipment, containing evidence of crimes against our company? David, who'd been sitting quietly in the corner, spoke up. That's completely legal. And discoverable. Marcus turned to Robert desperately. Robert, you know me. You know what I'm capable of. This is just her feeling threatened by. Sit down, Robert said quietly. Marcus blinked. What? Sit down. Marcus sat. Robert looked at me. You have documentation for all of this? Every single piece. Timestamps, witnesses, verified sources, sworn statements. It's all in the folder. He was quiet for a long moment, reading through the evidence. Patricia spoke first. I move that we terminate Marcus Whitfield's employment immediately for cause. All in favor? Wait. Marcus started. I second, Sarah said immediately. All in favor? Patricia repeated. 4 hands went up. James, Patricia, Sarah, Michael. Everyone except Robert. Robert was still looking at the evidence, his jaw working. Patricia prompted. He looked up at Marcus, and I saw something I'd never seen in Robert Hammond's face before. Disappointment. Slide 7. The takeover plan. I showed the photo of Marcus's whiteboard, the org chart with him as CEO, the 4-phase plan, the timeline ending in board proposal, January 2024. Marcus has been executing a calculated plan to take over this company. Phase 1 was building direct client relationships to bypass me. Phase 2 was demonstrating revenue growth by stealing credit for others' work. Phase 3 was positioning me as operational, not strategic, to undermine my authority. I looked directly at Robert. Phase 4 was bringing a proposal to the board, specifically to you, Robert, to remove me as CEO and install himself. The timeline says January 2024. That's 6 weeks from now. The room was dead silent. Robert was staring at the image, his face unreadable. Marcus stood up abruptly. This is ridiculous. You went through my office? That's illegal. Your office in our building, using our equipment, containing evidence of crimes against our company? David, who'd been sitting quietly in the corner, spoke up. That's completely legal. And discoverable. Marcus turned to Robert desperately. Robert, you know me. You know what I'm capable of. This is just her feeling threatened by. Sit down, Robert said quietly. Marcus blinked. What? Sit down. Marcus sat. Robert looked at me. You have documentation for all of this? Every single piece. Timestamps, witnesses, verified sources, sworn statements. It's all in the folder. He was quiet for a long moment, reading through the evidence. Patricia spoke first. I move that we terminate Marcus Whitfield's employment immediately for cause. All in favor? Wait. Marcus started. I second, Sarah said immediately. All in favor? Patricia repeated. 4 hands went up. James, Patricia, Sarah, Michael. Everyone except Robert. Robert was still looking at the evidence, his jaw working. Patricia prompted. He looked up at Marcus, and I saw something I'd never seen in Robert Hammond's face before. Disappointment. I brought you here, Robert said slowly. I vouched for you. I told Alexandra you were exactly what this company needed. Robert, please, Marcus tried. I was wrong, Robert said flatly. And I owe Alexandra and this entire company an apology. He raised his hand. The motion passes unanimously, Patricia said. Marcus Whitfield, your employment is terminated effective immediately. Security will escort you from the building. You have 1 hour to collect personal items under supervision. All company property, including electronics, files, and access credentials, will be confiscated. Marcus looked around the table wildly. You can't do this. I have a contract. Which you violated in approximately 15 different ways, David said, standing. You're terminated for cause, which means no severance, no equity vesting, and we reserve the right to pursue legal action for fraud, theft, and breach of contract. I'll sue, Marcus said, his voice rising. I'll sue all of you. This is retaliation. This is discrimination. Discrimination? Sarah said incredulously. Against what? Men who commit fraud? Against people who threaten Alexandra's position? Marcus snapped. She's been looking for an excuse to get rid of me since day one because she knew I was better. Better at what? I said quietly. Harassment? Theft? Fraud? Marcus turned to me, and all pretense of professionalism dropped from his face. You know what your problem is? He snarled. You can't handle real competition. You built this cute little company, and now you're terrified that someone with actual talent is going to show you up. I built a $52 million company from nothing, I said calmly. You built a pile of evidence for your own termination. Those are not the same level of talent. You're making a mistake, Marcus said, looking around the table. All of you. This company needs real leadership. Not someone who runs to HR every time someone hurts their feelings. I said. I didn't run to HR. 4 women you harassed came to HR because you created a hostile work environment. I built a case because that's what competent leaders do. They protect their people and their company. From what? Marcus shot back. From someone who actually knows how to close deals? From someone who isn't afraid to make hard decisions? From predators, I said flatly. From thieves. From men who think they're entitled to what others have built. Marcus's face went red. You're going to regret this. When this company fails without me. We grew 40% year over year before you arrived, Jennifer said from her seat. We'll be fine. Security is here, David said as 2 security guards appeared at the conference room door. Marcus looked around the table one more time, desperate. When no one met his eyes, something in him snapped. You know what? Fine. Fine. You want to know the truth? Robert was right to bring me in. This company was never going to grow past mid-tier consulting with a woman in charge. That's just reality. That's just biology. Biology? Patricia said coldly, yeah. Men are better at leadership. Better at strategy. Better at getting fired? Michael offered. You're all going to see, Marcus said, his voice shaking with rage. 6 months from now, when your revenue drops and your clients leave and you realize you made a mistake. The only mistake we made, Robert said, standing, was hiring you, and I take full responsibility for that. He looked at me. Alexandra, I owe you an apology, a significant one. I brought this man into your company without proper vetting because I was impressed by his resume and his confidence. I should have trusted your instincts. Thank you, I said quietly. Marcus was escorted out, still muttering threats and insults. When the door closed behind him, the room let out a collective exhale. Well, James said. That was dramatic. Necessary, Patricia corrected. Alexandra, thank you for bringing this to us comprehensively. This is exactly how a CEO should handle a crisis. I second that, Sarah said. The investigation was thorough, the documentation was flawless, and you protected your employees. That's exemplary leadership. Robert sat back down heavily. I need to say something. To everyone, but especially to you, Alex. He looked tired suddenly. Old. I've been in business for 35 years. I've seen a lot of talented people. And when I met Marcus, I saw what I wanted to see. A hungry, ambitious closer who reminded me of myself at that age. Robert, I started. Let me finish. What I didn't see, what I didn't want to see, was that his ambition wasn't about building something. It was about taking something. And I brought him into your company. I vouched for him. I defended him when you had concerns. He met my eyes. I'm sorry. You were right. And I was blinded honestly? By old habits, by assumptions I didn't realize I still had about what leadership looks like. Thank you, I said. That means a lot. The company is yours, Robert said firmly. It always has been. And anyone who questions that after today needs to leave this board. Heads nodded around the table. Patricia smiled slightly. You know, I've been on 12 corporate boards. I've never seen someone handle a situation like this with more precision and control. You could have fired him day one. But you built an airtight case so there could be no question, no conspiracy theories, no he said, she said. Women can't afford to be impulsive, I said. We have to be twice as prepared to be considered half as competent. Not on this board, James said. You've proven yourself 100 times over. So what happens now? Michael asked. Do we press charges? David spoke up. That's Alexandra's decision. We have grounds for criminal fraud charges for the expenses, civil suits for the IP theft and attempted client poaching, and the harassment victims can pursue their own legal action. I thought for a moment. Let's do this. We pursue the fraud charges. The expense theft is clear-cut, and I want it on record. For the civil stuff, we send a letter through counsel making it clear that if he tries to start a competing firm or contact our clients, we'll sue him into bankruptcy. And the harassment? Sarah asked. I'll reach out to each woman individually and offer full legal support if they want to pursue action. But I won't force them. That has to be their choice. Patricia nodded approvingly. Reasonable and ethical. I like it. One more thing, I said. I want to implement some changes. Mandatory harassment training, real training, not just checking a box. Anonymous reporting channels. And I want to bring in an outside consultant to audit our hiring and promotion practices. Why? James asked. Because Marcus got this far. Because 4 women were afraid to report him. Because our systems failed. I looked around the table. I don't want this to ever happen again. Agreed, Robert said immediately. Whatever you need. Full support. The meeting adjourned 20 minutes later. As everyone filed out, Robert hung back. Alexandra, he said. I really am sorry. I know. I should have listened to you. When you first raised concerns, I dismissed them. I thought you were being territorial. Threatened. I was threatened, I said. By someone who was genuinely threatening my company and my people. He nodded slowly. You're a better CEO than I ever was. Thank you, Robert. He was wrong, you know. About women. About leadership. About you. I know that too. He smiled slightly. Of course you do. After he left, I stood alone in the conference room for a moment, looking at the folders still scattered on the table. 147 pages of evidence. 3 months of documentation. 4 women who'd found their courage. 1 man who'd underestimated the wrong person. My phone buzzed. It was Jennifer. He's out of the building. Security confiscated his laptop, phone, and files. He tried to delete stuff, but IT recovered everything. You want to address the staff? Give me 5 minutes, I texted back. I gathered my materials, straightened my suit, and headed to the main office floor. It was time to tell my team that the threat was gone, and that we had work to do. I called an all-hands meeting for 2 p.m. that same day. The entire company, all 200 employees across our 4 offices, joined via video conference. Our main conference room was packed with the headquarters staff. I could see it in their faces. They knew something had happened. The rumors had already started spreading. Marcus being escorted out by security. An emergency board meeting. Whispers about investigations. I stood at the front of the room and waited for everyone to settle. Thank you all for joining on short notice, I began. I know there's been a lot of speculation today, and you deserve to know what's happening. The room was completely silent. This morning, the board voted unanimously to terminate Marcus Whitfield's employment for cause, effective immediately. A ripple went through the crowd. Some looked relieved, others shocked. I want to be clear about why, I continued. Marcus was terminated for serious violations including harassment, fraud, intellectual property theft, and deliberate sabotage of company projects and personnel. I saw Rachel in the back row, tears in her eyes. Over the past 3 months, Marcus created a hostile work environment for multiple employees, particularly women. He engaged in systematic harassment, made inappropriate advances toward junior staff, and retaliated against those who rejected him. Katie was sitting near the front, her hands clasped tight. He also committed expense fraud totaling over $43,000, stole proprietary work from colleagues, and presented it as his own, and was actively planning to poach our clients and start a competing firm. The shock was visible now. People were looking at each other, mouths open. A comprehensive investigation was conducted with full documentation, witness statements, and evidence verification. The board reviewed 147 pages of evidence before making their decision. This was not a personality conflict. This was not a difference of opinion. This was a pattern of serious misconduct. I paused, making eye contact with as many people as I could. I want to apologize to everyone in this room. As CEO, I'm responsible for the culture and safety of this company. Marcus should never have gotten this far. Our systems should have caught this earlier. Our reporting channels should have made people feel safer coming forward. Sarah from marketing raised her hand. What happens to the people he harassed? Anyone affected by Marcus's behavior has my full support, financial, legal, and professional. If anyone wants to pursue legal action, the company will provide resources and counsel. If anyone needs counseling or support services, we'll provide that too. And if anyone experienced retaliation or career setbacks because of him, we'll review and rectify that immediately. What about the clients he contacted? Someone from sales called out. We've already reached out to every client Marcus interacted with. We've informed them of the situation and reassured them of our commitment to their accounts. So far, every single client has expressed continued confidence in CSS and our team. That got some relieved nods. What about his accomplishments? That was Derek, one of the senior consultants. He claimed he brought in 3 major clients. That's a good question, I said. And it illustrates part of the problem. Marcus did help close 3 accounts. But in each case, the foundational work, the strategy, the relationships, the proposals, was done by other team members. Specifically, by Rachel Morrison, James Park, and Alicia Ramos. I gestured to them in the crowd. Marcus took credit for their work. He positioned himself as the rainmaker while the real talent did the actual work. Those 3 closings? They happened because of Rachel, James, and Alicia, not Marcus. The 3 of them looked stunned. In fact, I continued, effective immediately, Rachel is being promoted to Senior Vice President of Client Strategy. James is now VP of Business Development, and Alicia is VP of Strategic Partnerships. The room erupted in applause. Rachel was crying openly now. Alicia had her hand over her mouth in shock. Additionally, I said when the applause died down, we're implementing several changes. First, we're bringing in an outside firm to conduct a full audit of our workplace culture, hiring practices, and reporting mechanisms. Second, we're implementing mandatory harassment and bias training for everyone, including me, including the board, including all leadership. Real training with accountability. Third, we're creating an anonymous reporting hotline managed by a third-party service, so anyone who experiences problems can report safely without fear of retaliation. Fourth, we're establishing a diversity and inclusion committee with real authority and budget to address systemic issues. I looked around the room. And finally, I want to make something absolutely clear. This company was built on talent, hard work, and respect. Anyone, and I mean anyone, who thinks they can harass, steal, sabotage, or discriminate will be removed. I don't care about your resume. I don't care about your connections. I don't care if you're bringing in revenue. Your character matters more than your credentials. Your integrity matters more than your contacts. And how you treat people matters more than your performance metrics. The room was completely silent. This is a company where women can lead, where junior staff are valued, where talent is recognized regardless of gender, race, age, or background. If you can't work in that environment, this isn't the place for you. More applause. Louder this time. When it quieted, Jennifer stood up from her seat. I want to say something, she announced. I've worked with Alex for 8 years. I've watched her build this company through recessions, through industry changes, through countless challenges. She looked directly at me, and I've watched men underestimate her every single time. Clients who asked to speak to a male partner. Investors who questioned her numbers. Competitors who thought she'd be easy to beat. Every single one of them was wrong. Alex is the smartest, toughest, most strategic leader I've ever worked for. And Marcus thought he could take her down in 3 months. Jennifer smiled. He found out what everyone else eventually learns. You don't bet against Alexandra Chen. The applause this time was thunderous. After the meeting, I was swarmed. People wanted to thank me. People wanted to share their own experiences with Marcus that they'd been too afraid to report. People wanted to talk about the changes we were implementing. Katie came up to me with red eyes. "Thank you," she said quietly. "I was so scared. I thought I'd lose my job. I thought no one would believe me." "I believed you," I said. "And I'm sorry it took courage to come forward. That should never be required." "He told me women can't run companies," Katie said. "He said you were going to fail and he was going to take over and I watched you destroy him in 4 hours using nothing but facts and preparation." She smiled through her tears. "I want to be like you when I grow up." "You're already on your way," I said. "You stood up to someone with power when you had every reason to stay silent. That's leadership." Rachel found me as I was heading back to my office. Alexandra, I don't know what to say. Senior VP, you earned it. Your work on the Dennison account was brilliant. The Caldwell strategy was flawless. You did that, Rachel, not Marcus. And now everyone knows it. "I was going to quit," she admitted. "After he stole my presentation, I was updating my resume. I thought if this is what consulting is, maybe I'm not cut out for it. Consulting isn't that. Marcus was that. And he's gone. Because of you. Because of all of us," I corrected. Katie had the courage to report. "You documented your work." The other women came forward. "We did this together." If you're enjoying this story of justice and revenge, do me a favor, hit that subscribe button and drop a comment telling me about a time you stood up to someone who underestimated you. Your stories inspire me to keep making these videos. Now let's see what happened to Marcus. After the meeting, I was swarmed. People wanted to thank me. People wanted to share their own experiences with Marcus that they'd been too afraid to report. People wanted to talk about the changes we were implementing. Katie came up to me with red eyes. "Thank you," she said quietly. "I was so scared. I thought I'd lose my job. I thought no one would believe me." "I believed you," I said. "And I'm sorry it took courage to come forward. That should never be required." "He told me women can't run companies," Katie said. "He said you were going to fail and he was going to take over and I watched you destroy him in 4 hours using nothing but facts and preparation." She smiled through her tears. "I want to be like you when I grow up." "You're already on your way," I said. "You stood up to someone with power when you had every reason to stay silent. That's leadership." Rachel found me as I was heading back to my office. Alexandra, I don't know what to say. Senior VP, you earned it. Your work on the Dennison account was brilliant. The Caldwell strategy was flawless. You did that, Rachel, not Marcus. And now everyone knows it. "I was going to quit," she admitted. "After he stole my presentation, I was updating my resume. I thought if this is what consulting is, maybe I'm not cut out for it. Consulting isn't that. Marcus was that. And he's gone. Because of you. Because of all of us," I corrected. Katie had the courage to report. "You documented your work." The other women came forward. "We did this together." If you're enjoying this story of justice and revenge, do me a favor, hit that subscribe button and drop a comment telling me about a time you stood up to someone who underestimated you. Your stories inspire me to keep making these videos. Now let's see what happened to Marcus. The next few days were chaotic. Marcus tried to salvage his reputation. He posted on LinkedIn about being wrongfully terminated and facing discrimination for challenging ineffective leadership. It lasted about 6 hours before 5 different women, including 2 from his previous jobs, posted their own stories about his behavior. His post was deleted by the end of the day. He tried to reach out to our clients. Every single one forwarded his emails to us and told him they weren't interested. Tom Davidson from Orion Tech actually called me laughing. Marcus just tried to pitch me on his new consulting firm. Told me he was the real brains behind CSS's strategy. I told him we're renewing our contract with you for another 3 years and hung up on him. "Thank you, Tom. Are you kidding? Watching you handle this has been masterclass. You're getting a case study written about you in the Harvard Business Review, I guarantee it." Marcus tried to sue for wrongful termination. His lawyer dropped the case after reviewing the evidence. Apparently, 147 pages of documented misconduct makes for a very weak lawsuit. The fraud charges, however, moved forward. The DA was very interested in $43,000 of systematic expense fraud. Marcus ended up pleading guilty to avoid trial. He got probation, community service, and in order to repay the full amount with penalties. His professional reputation was destroyed. No major consulting firm would touch him. His McKinsey alumni network quietly distanced themselves. His LinkedIn was full of connections removing him. He tried to start his own firm. It folded within 6 months. No clients, no funding, no one willing to work with him. Last I heard, he was working at a mid-tier corporate strategy firm in a non-leadership role, making a fraction of what he made at CSS. Meanwhile, CSS thrived. The quarter after Marcus left, our revenue grew 15%. Rachel, James, and Alicia, in their new roles, brought in 4 major new clients in the first 3 months. The workplace culture audit came back with recommendations, and we implemented every single one. Employee satisfaction scores went up 40%. We were named one of the best places to work by 3 different publications, and applications to work at CSS increased by 200%. Talented people wanted to work somewhere with real values. 6 months later, we hit $75 million in revenue. Robert called to congratulate me. "You know what the board said in our last meeting?" he asked. "What?" "That bringing Marcus in was the best thing that ever happened to the company." "But what?" I was confused. "Because you handled it so perfectly that it proved beyond any doubt what kind of leader you are. The board has complete confidence in you now. No questions. No doubts. That's actually pretty ironic, isn't it?" Robert laughed. "He tried to take you down and ended up making you untouchable." A year after Marcus's termination, I was invited to speak at a women's leadership conference. The topic: what to do when someone tries to take what you built. I told the whole story. Every detail. The audience was 2,000 women in business. Founders, executives, entrepreneurs. When I finished, the standing ovation lasted 5 minutes. Afterward, dozens of women came up to me with their own stories. Stories of men who'd tried to steal their companies. Men who'd harassed them and thought they'd get away with it. Men who'd underestimated them and paid the price. "What's the most important thing you learned?" one young founder asked me. I thought about it. Document everything. Protect your people. Build your case carefully. And never ever let someone make you doubt your own competence. "What if they have powerful friends?" she asked. "Then make sure your evidence is so bulletproof that even their powerful friends can't defend them." "Did it feel good?" another woman asked. "Firing him?" I smiled. It felt like justice. 2 years after Marcus Whitfield walked out of my building in handcuffs, I was standing on a stage in New York City. The venue was the Javits Center. The event was the National Business Leadership Awards, and I was receiving the Entrepreneur of the Year award. CSS had just crossed $100 million in annual revenue. We'd expanded to 8 offices across the country. Our team had grown to 450 employees, and 60% of our leadership positions were held by women. But that's not why I was getting the award. Alexandra Chen has redefined what ethical leadership looks like in corporate America, the presenter was saying. After exposing and removing a senior executive who committed fraud, harassment, and theft, she didn't just move on. She rebuilt her company's culture from the ground up. She implemented industry-leading reporting systems. She created mentorship programs for women in consulting. She proved that you can be profitable and principled. That growth and integrity aren't opposing forces. CSS isn't just a successful company. It's a model for what business should be. I walked onto the stage to thunderous applause. The award was heavy in my hands. Glass and metal, engraved with my name. But what I was holding felt heavier than that. It felt like vindication. "Thank you," I said into the microphone. "This is incredible, and I'm honored. But I want to be clear about something." The room quieted. I didn't do this alone. This award represents the courage of women who spoke up when it was dangerous to do so. The loyalty of team members who chose integrity over politics. The support of board members who admitted when they were wrong. 2 years ago, a man walked into my company and told me women can't run businesses. He said we're too emotional. Too sensitive. Not strategic enough. I paused. He was right about one thing. I am emotional. I'm emotional about protecting my people. I'm emotional about building something that matters. I'm emotional about creating workplaces where talent is recognized and character counts. But he confused emotion with weakness. He confused empathy with incompetence. He thought that because I cared about people, I couldn't make hard decisions. So I made the hardest decision of my career. I spent 3 months documenting every violation, building an airtight case, and protecting the women he'd targeted. And then I fired him in front of the entire board with 147 pages of evidence. The room erupted in applause. "Here's what I learned from that experience," I continued. "Being underestimated is a gift. When people think you're not a threat, they get sloppy. They leave evidence. They underestimate how prepared you are. Marcus thought I was an easy target. He thought my empathy was weakness. He thought my collaborative style meant I couldn't be ruthless when necessary. He learned that empathetic leaders can be the most dangerous opponents. Because we protect our people, and there's nothing more fierce than someone defending what they built and the people they're responsible for. More applause. So to every woman in this room who's been underestimated, talked over, or told she's not tough enough for leadership, I want you to remember something. I held up the award. They're not underestimating you because you're weak. They're underestimating you because they're threatened. And their fear is your advantage. Document everything. Build your network. Protect your people. And when the moment comes, and it will come, be prepared to show them exactly how wrong they were. The standing ovation lasted nearly 3 minutes. After the ceremony, I was swarmed by press. Ms. Chen, you've become something of an icon for women in business. How does that feel? Honestly? Exhausting, I said with a laugh. I didn't set out to be a symbol. I just wanted to run my company ethically and protect my employees. But if my story helps other women stand up for themselves, then I'm grateful. What would you say to Marcus Whitfield if you saw him today? I thought about that. I'd probably say thank you. The reporter looked surprised. Thank you? He challenged me in a way I'd never been challenged before. He forced me to be more strategic, more thorough, more protective of my culture. He tried to destroy what I built, and instead he made it stronger. So you're grateful? No, I said. I'm grateful for what I learned. He's still a criminal who harassed multiple women and stole from my company. But the experience taught me something valuable about leadership and resilience. Do you think he's learned anything? I doubt it. Men like that rarely do. They blame everyone else for their failures. But that's not my problem anymore. Later that evening, there was a private dinner for award recipients. I was seated next to Margaret Zhao, founder of a $2 billion tech company and one of my heroes. I read about what happened with that executive, she said. Brilliant handling. Thank you. It was intense. I had a similar situation 15 years ago, Margaret said. VP who tried to stage a coup. Told investors I was too nice to run a tech company. What did you do? I fired him, acquired his next company, and shut it down. She smiled. Sometimes being too nice means you're just smart enough to wait for the perfect moment. We clinked glasses. Can I ask you something? I said. Does it ever stop? The underestimating? The assumptions? Margaret was quiet for a moment. No, she said honestly. Even at this level, people still assume my husband runs my company. Still ask if I need help with the technical stuff. Still suggest I'm lucky rather than skilled. That's depressing. It would be if I let it define me. But here's the secret, Alexandra. Every time someone underestimates you, you get to prove them wrong. That never gets old. She leaned in. And between you and me, I've made more money betting against people who underestimate women than any other investment strategy. Their blind spots are our opportunities. I laughed. That's diabolical. That's business. On the flight home the next day, I opened my laptop and found an email from Katie. The subject line was, "You won't believe this. Alexandra. You're not going to believe who applied for the receptionist position we just posted. Marcus Whitfield. His resume came through our application portal today. He applied for the receptionist job. The one I started in 4 years ago." I showed Jennifer and she literally laughed for 5 minutes straight. Obviously we're not going to interview him, but I thought you'd want to know. He's fallen that far. Also, I start my MBA next month thanks to the education program you created. None of this would have happened without you believing in me. Thank you for everything, Katie. I stared at the email for a long moment. Then I forwarded it to Jennifer with one line. Karma is real. Her response came back immediately. Should we send him a rejection letter or just ghost him? Rejection letter, I typed back. Professional and courteous. Because we're better than he ever was. You're too nice, Jennifer replied. No, I'm just strategic. Being professional costs us nothing and proves everything. A week later, I was back in my office at CSS headquarters. The same corner office where Marcus had sat across from me 2 years ago and told me women can't run companies. The same office where I'd made the decision to build a case instead of firing him immediately. The same office where I'd planned his downfall with precision and patience. I looked out at the city skyline, the sunset painting everything gold. My company was worth $100 million. My team was thriving. My culture was strong. And the man who tried to take it all? He was applying for entry-level positions and getting rejected. My phone buzzed. It was Robert. Alex, board meeting next month. We want to discuss expansion plans. Patricia suggested opening international offices. Europe or Asia? I asked. Both. We think you're ready. We think I'm ready? Robert, I've been ready. He laughed. You're right. You've been ready. We're just catching up. After we hung up, I sat there smiling. 2 years ago, I'd been fighting for my company's survival and my own credibility. Today, I was planning international expansion. 2 years ago, a man told me women can't run companies. Today, I was running a $100 million company and being recognized as one of the best leaders in the country. The irony was perfect. That night, I went home to my apartment, the penthouse I'd bought last year, a far cry from the studio where I'd started CSS a decade ago. I poured a glass of wine and stood on my balcony, looking out at the city. My phone buzzed with messages. Rachel, just closed the Mendoza account. $3 million annual contract. Thanks for believing in me. James. Tokyo office scouting trip scheduled. This is really happening. Alicia. Forbes wants to interview you about the culture transformation. Interested? Jennifer. Dinner this weekend? We need to celebrate. Again. And one more. From an unknown number. I almost didn't open it. But curiosity won. Alexandra, you probably weren't expecting to hear from me. I want you to know I've had time to think about what happened. A lot of time. I was wrong. About you. About leadership. About what it takes to build something real. I spent my whole career thinking competence meant ruthlessness. That leadership meant dominance. That success came from taking what you wanted. You showed me something different. You were ruthless when you needed to be, but strategic. You led through respect, not fear. And you succeeded by building, not taking. I'm not asking for forgiveness. I don't deserve it. The women I hurt don't owe me anything. But I wanted you to know that you taught me something I should have learned decades ago. Being underestimated isn't a weakness. Being empathetic isn't a liability. And gender has nothing to do with leadership capability. You're a better CEO than I ever could have been. I'm sorry for what I did. To you, to your team, to your company. Marcus. I read it 3 times. Then I poured the rest of my wine down the sink, sat down at my laptop, and typed a response. Marcus. I appreciate you taking the time to write. I accept your apology for what it is, an acknowledgement that you were wrong. That matters. But I want to be clear about something. You didn't teach me anything about leadership. I already knew how to lead. You taught me about vigilance, about protecting my culture, about building systems that prevent people like you from succeeding. So thank you for that lesson, even though you didn't mean to teach it. I hope you've genuinely changed. I hope you treat people better. I hope you've learned that success built on theft and harassment isn't success at all. But mostly, I hope you understand this. You didn't fail because I was smarter or more prepared or better connected. You failed because you fundamentally misunderstood what power is. Power isn't taking what others built. It's building something they can't take from you. Power isn't dominating people. It's earning their loyalty. Power isn't being feared. It's being respected. You tried to take my power. But you can't take what was never yours to begin with. I built CSS with integrity, strategy, and care for my people. That's why it survived your attack. That's why it thrived after you left. Not because women are better than men at running companies, but because character matters more than credentials. I wish you well, Marcus. I genuinely do. But I don't need your apology to validate my success. I never did. Alexandra Chen. CEO, Chen Strategic Solutions. $100 million revenue and growing. I hit send. Then I closed my laptop, walked back out to the balcony, and looked at my city. My city. My company. My success. Built by my hands. Protected by my strategy. Grown through my leadership. Someone once told me women can't run companies. I didn't argue with him. I didn't try to convince him. I just proved him wrong with every decision, every quarter, every success. And when he tried to take what I built, I destroyed him with nothing but facts, preparation, and patience. That's what power looks like. Not loud, not aggressive, not dominating, just inevitable. 2 weeks later, Forbes published their annual Most Powerful Women in Business list. I was number 47. The profile included the story of Marcus, the investigation, the transformation of CSS. The headline read, How Alexandra Chen Turned a Crisis into a $100 Million Leadership Masterclass. The article ended with a quote from me. Someone once told me women can't run companies because we're too emotional. He was right that I'm emotional. I'm emotional about integrity, about culture, about protecting my people. But he confused emotion with weakness. That was his mistake. And it cost him everything. The article went viral. Within a week, I'd received speaking invitations from Harvard, Stanford, Wharton, and MIT. 3 major companies asked me to join their boards. 2 venture capital firms wanted to discuss funding for CSS's expansion. And I received 10,000 messages from women in business thanking me for telling the story. But the message that meant the most came from someone unexpected. Robert's daughter, Emily, who was just starting her own tech company. Miss Chen, I'm Robert Hammond's daughter. My dad told me your story. He's told everyone your story. He's incredibly proud of how you handled everything, even though he's still embarrassed about his role in it. I just wanted to thank you. I'm 28 and I just raised my first round of funding for my startup. And in every meeting, I deal with men who assume I'm the note-taker, not the founder. Men who ask where my technical co-founder is, like I couldn't possibly understand my own product. Reading about how you handled Marcus gave me a blueprint. Document everything. Build an airtight case. Protect your people. Be strategic, not reactive. But more than that, it gave me permission to be underestimated. I used to try so hard to seem tough enough or technical enough or whatever enough to be taken seriously. Your story taught me that being underestimated is actually an advantage. Let them think I'm not a threat. While they're dismissing me, I'm building something they can't compete with. So thank you for fighting your fight, for telling your story, for showing the rest of us what's possible. Emily Hammond. I wrote back immediately. Emily tu entières. Thank you for this message. It means more than you know. Your dad is a good man who made a mistake and owned it. That's rare and valuable. And you're going to be incredible. I can already tell. Remember, they're not underestimating you because you're not capable. They're underestimating you because they're threatened by what you represent. Change, disruption, a future where their assumptions don't hold. Use that. Build while they're busy dismissing you. Win while they're busy explaining why you can't. And when you do win, and you will, be generous. Help the next generation. Tell your story. Pay it forward. That's how we change things. If you ever need advice, a sounding board, or just someone who understands, I'm here. Alexandra. P.S. Tell your dad I said hello, and that he's forgiven, but he's buying drinks next time we meet. 6 months later, CSS opened offices in London and Singapore. 1 year later, we crossed $150 million in revenue. And 3 years after Marcus Whitfield walked out of my building, I walked onto the stage at the Women's Entrepreneurship Summit as the keynote speaker. The theme of the conference was, Building Power, Leadership in a Changing World. I stood in front of 5,000 women and told them the truth. Power isn't something you take, I said. It's something you build, brick by brick, decision by decision, person by person. When someone tries to take what you've built, they're revealing their own weakness. They don't know how to build, they only know how to take. And taking is always temporary. Building is forever. So build your skills, build your network, build your reputation, build your culture, build something so strong that when someone tries to take it, they fail. Not because you destroyed them, but because what you built is indestructible. I paused, looking out at thousands of faces. Someone once told me women can't run companies. Today, I run a $150 million company. I employ 600 people. I mentored dozens of young entrepreneurs. And that man who underestimated me? He's a cautionary tale about what happens when you confuse gender with capability. The crowd rose to their feet. And I stood there, in front of 5,000 women who were building their own empires. And I felt something I'd never felt before. Not vindication. Not revenge. Not even pride. Peace. Because I'd proven, to myself, to my team, to every woman who'd ever been told she wasn't enough, that we are enough. More than enough. And anyone who tries to take what we build will learn what Marcus learned. We don't just fight back. We win.